Greetings and welcome back to the Celestial Perch. Tonight I will be going over briefly the ship designer and how to use it. This will be part of a mini-series for new players on how to use various tools and systems within Stellaris and just overall how to slowly become a better player. I'm also working on a few videos right now related to patch 3.6, so for any more experienced players or returning players, I will have those out hopefully by the end of this weekend. But more so to this video, I wanted to go over something that for hundreds of hours playing Stellaris I rarely ever touched or used, but in hindsight, it would have saved me a lot of time. If we look at the screen over here, we have the Fleet Manager. You can also simply just press F10 and that'll bring it up. Now, the Fleet Manager at first looks quite confusing. There's a lot of stuff, and for most new players, or at least when players first start, you might just have the ship designer, and you might even have auto-generated designs. That's totally fine. But generally speaking, what you're going to be doing as a new player is you'll be clicking on your shipyard, you'll be manually building ships, clicking out some destroyers, some cruisers. They'll build, and they'll go into their own little fleets here, and you'll manage them. But as they die, then you'll have to remember, well, how many cruisers did I have in this fleet? How many destroyers did I have in this fleet? And if they get completely wiped out, then you have to manually click all of those ships each time again to rebuild them. And it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hassle, and a lot of time can be saved if you just use the fleet designer, or the fleet manager, sorry. So once again, press F10 to bring it up, or simply just navigate to the left over here. Fleet Manager, bring it up. And when you first start the game, these will be empty. There will only be the Create New. And let me just delete this really fast. You'll press Create New. Now when you click that, it will have the fleet down here as New Fleet. It will show you your command limit. It'll show you your home base. And all of this should be empty. And you'll have all of your ship designs over here. So even if you have more than 3, or however many you have, they'll all be here. So if you had 6 Corvette designs, they would be up at the top, and then destroyers, and then cruisers, and then battleships, and then Titans. Now, let's say we want to build a new fleet. It's mid-game, or it's kind of early game. But let's say we want to have a fleet down south and a fleet up north. Well, this fleet will need to add a Corvette, a destroyer, and a cruiser. Now, currently you only have 1 of each. So, to add additional ships, you can just simply press the increase button here. Let's say we want 15 Corvettes, 4 destroyers, and 2 cruisers. It'll show us our exact command limit usage up here, and it'll show you currently how many ships are in the fleet out of the requested ships. So you haven't actually built the ships yet. You have just told the fleet manager that I want 15 Corvettes, 4 destroyers, and 2 cruisers. Now, there are buttons you can press to actually build the ships. So, there's this big button up here that says Reinforce All. So, you may have noticed that button, and it's definitely useful. I'd say it's more useful in the late game, but I would caution against using it right now, because we only have 1.5 thousand alloys. So if we press Reinforce All, the computer is going to look and see that this fleet, Murder of Tripato, is missing 3 cruisers. Cruisers are pretty expensive. If we go to our ship designer, you'll see that cruisers cost almost 600 alloys. So there's no way we could build the cruisers and also build some of these ships. So if we want to start working on this fleet first, we will simply press Reinforce Fleet, and the build queue will pop up here. We only have 1 shipyard at Rack A, so it will start populating there, and you can click on Rack A and see. So we have 4 shipyards here. It will start building the Corvettes and working its way down through it. For now, we only have enough alloys to actually build the corvettes, but if we let time pass for a second, you'll see that they will start building. And now the murder of Karkan over in our capital system is being constructed. So we'll pause again. It's been constructed. So you'll notice this fleet's here, and it also matches what's in the ship designer, or the fleet designer. Fleet manager, sorry. I always get these confused. There's ship designer and fleet manager, but we're in the fleet manager. So it's over here. Now, let's say you're not a huge fan of the name. That's fine. You can always just click on it, click on the name to rename it. Let's say we want to name it the murder of Yuritsa. There. Now you can click that, press OK, and it will change that. And you'll notice if we go back to the fleet manager, it has changed here. Now there are a few other buttons that I would like to go over. There's the return and take point. Return will order the selected fleet to return to its home base. As it currently stands, when it starts out, it will not have a home base. So we'll click this and we'll tell it, let's make it the Rack to A station. We'll assign that to its base. So let's say for a second we move it over here. We'll wait for time to pass again. This is a pretty niche feature that you might not use too much, but if you forget where a fleet is, either in the fleet manager itself or on the fleet, we'll use the fleet manager for now, but you can click on it and say return. And that ship, or that fleet, will go back to its home base. This is nice because you can set home bases close to shipyards, so that then they are not too far away when you reinforce them. Now, you might be saying, well, that's all nice, but what if my fleet is back over here and I want to reinforce it? I press reinforce fleet. It'll start building these corvettes, it'll start building these destroyers, and you'll notice they will be in transit. So we pause here for a second. At least one of our fleets is in transit, reinforcing another. It will take them some time to reach the larger fleet. So it'll tell you when those individual ships will make it there. And if we see here, these should get there within 3 months on 2256-0502. So that'll be in 3 months. And if we wait for a second, it will eventually reinforce here and you will see the fleets. So you'll see they pop in and then
the spirits have granted us new wisdom.
It is there. So that's an easy way to reinforce a specific fleet, or you can press this button to reinforce all fleets that you have managed across your entire empire. You'll notice here, this fleet has a leader. So for this one, we might want to assign it a leader. This guy looks pretty good. He has aggressive, he's psychic. He's only skill 1, but that's fine. We don't want to use this guy because he's already assigned to another fleet. So we'll click on him. He will automatically be assigned. And you don't actually have to click on the manual fleet. The reason why the fleet manager is so useful is because at the start of the game, yes, you only have one fleet to manage. It's very easy. You build the ships. You can just merge them in the same system, and that's all fine. But when you get to late game, when you have maybe a third, even a fourth of the galaxy, you could have 5 or 6 fleets, and you might not know where they are. You might not know where the reinforcements are. It's much, much easier to just use the fleet manager and manage reinforcements specifically, disband fleets. There are various other buttons to use. You can check ship details as well. It's very nice to just kind of quickly see, am I using the right ships? Am I using the right ship designs? And there are a few other buttons. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Disbanding your fleet, upgrading a specific fleet, telling it to repair itself, converting into a mercenary enclave. That's something that's very, very specific. And then the last thing to kind of take advantage of, you probably won't ever use the stop feature too much. It will stop and remove all actions. So if you've told it maybe to go halfway across the galaxy and you don't want it to anymore and you're still designing other fleets, you could simply press that button. And lastly, take point. So Currently, I'm set to discourage allies from following me, but you can press take point for a specific fleet. And let's say you're in a federation, if there's a federation fleet or an ally with you in a war, they will follow that specific fleet. It can be useful for pushing through strongholds or maybe citadels that the AI have set up. But I would say that take point is something that you would want to experiment with yourself, see if it's something that you like. Um, and kind of the last thing to mention that you can change here as well, but you can also change on the fleets is their fleet stance. So most fleets will start in passive. If, for example, we click on this fleet, he is in passive. But if we go to the fleet manager and change it here, he will now be aggressive. So this is kind of a basic guide to the fleet manager and why I think more new Stellaris players should use it and get used to it, because it is something that will save you a lot of micromanaging in the late game. And the less micromanaging you have to do in Stellaris, the better, because it is a game of micromanaging. So having too much of it can be stressful, and it can detract from other things that you might want to focus on. But thank you for listening and watching, and I will hopefully have some additional videos out going over some other features within Stellaris, other systems to review. But have a blessed day.